Oh man, it's we tried to do all we could. We went over there and saw him and just tried to give, like you said, give as much support as you can in a situation like that. Uh, nobody wanted to continue to play the game in a situation like that, and uh, I know how everybody would be feeling in our locker room if it was one of our guys, and I know how we were feeling, and it was one of their guys. So it was a scary, emotional night. I think collectively, every single person that plays the game of football and has played has thought about something like that happening, and at the same time that you're thinking that it would never happen to you or to anybody that you know. And I think it was a big wake-up call for everybody that that's a possibility. It can happen, and it's part of the game. Unfortunately, I think there's nothing you can do about that hit. That hit happens on every play of every single game, and so that's the scary part about it.
Welcome to Brother from Another. I have to say, every time I hear from Joe Burrow, you probably feel the same way too. You're watching on Peacock TV, listening on Sirius XM Channel 85, or however you consume the show. You probably think this. Every time you hear from Joe Burrow, you're impressed. I felt that way about Joe Burrow before he even was drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. I remember when he was in Indianapolis, and the Bengals at that time were a laughingstock, and he was being asked, would you want to be drafted by the Bengals? And some people give a political answer there. He said, absolutely, I would love it. He grew up in Athens, Ohio. It's not very far from Cincinnati, and went to Ohio State briefly, wound up at LSU, and said, sure, it'd be an honor to be drafted first overall by the Bengals. And from that moment to this one, every statement that Joe Burrow makes is on point. And this is the most important time to be on point. Bengals, Bills, that game, there's still some discussions about how the NFL will handle that. The game was stopped, as you know. It was 7-3 Cincinnati. And then the awful sequence happened. Wound up with Bills safety Damar Hamlin on a stretcher, surrounded by his teammates and the Cincinnati Bengals, and taken off to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, where he remains in critical condition. But here's the good news, Mike Jones. Mike Jones of The Athletic joins us. The good news is doctors say he has made remarkable improvement, substantial improvement since Monday night, where he had to be resuscitated on the field. CPR is administered. He suffered cardiac arrest right there on a football field. But now doctors are encouraged by his progress. His father, Mario Hamlin, spoke with the Bills today via Zoom. That, according to sources, that was a great moment for them. That gave them some reassurance and allowed them to kind of still keep Damar in their prayers, obviously, and thoughts, but also to start thinking about playing football on Sunday. And it looks like that's going to happen. Mike, I haven't heard you weigh in on this, especially with the developments. What's your take on, take is not even the right word. What are your thoughts? That's a better way of saying it. What are your thoughts on what you've learned in the last 24 to 36 hours?
I think watching that game was the first time I've ever been emotional watching a football game and injury. We've seen bad injuries before, but that was scary. Sitting there, I was watching with my kids and everything, and everybody was getting choked up. Just for that. But to hear, they said yesterday, there's some progress. They were weaning him off the ventilator, but there were still questions about his mind and if there was any brain damage. But to hear that, right away, he opens his eyes, and very shortly after, he's writing to the doctors who won the game. That is fantastic because, hey, even if he had woken up and say there was some brain damage because there wasn't enough oxygen getting to his brain during that time they were to resuscitate him. You don't know what his quality of life would have been. And there's still questions. He's not out of the woods. But the fact that he had the capability to remember the game and to write and communicate to the doctors is just you just gotta, say your prayers and thank the Lord that he is, making that progress, and that it looks like they said, looks like his neurological capacities are intact, because this is a young man, very talented young man with a bright future. And it just would have been it was emotional. It would have been a tragedy for him to not make it out of this, but just that there's hope there, that he's going to be okay. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's just like
no, it's not a rambling. No,
it's like,
no, it's not rambling at all.
I mean, that progress, that hope is just something I think that his family needed, his teammates needed, and all of us as well needed.
You know what, Mike, and the response, I love the response from the doctor per Adam Kilgore. The doctor says, yes, you won in the game of life. Who won the game? You did. You won in the game of life, because that's no guarantee, and that's why there was so much emotion. That's why there's so many tears on the field. Guys had no idea when he left. I mean, if you just really think about it, and look, Mike, I'm saying this. It sounds like I'm being critical of the NFL. It sounds like this. I'm not. I'm just saying that once a player goes through that on the field and is resuscitated on the field, and the ambulance goes away, and there's no information about what's happening out there on the road. We don't know. We're at the stadium. He's gone. Once that takes place, game's over.
Right.
Like they just and I don't know if they process it. I don't know. I just know for everybody on the field, they knew that. Sean McDermott knew that, and Zach Taylor mentioned that yesterday. It's just there's nothing else to discuss. The game is over. We're not thinking about this. I want to say to you, and see if you agree with this. When people say this, the cliche is that sports bring people together. Not always. Okay, sports don't always bring people together. Sometimes sports drive people apart. I can tell you though, sports are strange in a way that some event that transcends the game can certainly bring people together. I have only, since I've been living in Boston, I've lived in Boston since 1994. And only one time since living here have I rooted for the hated New York Yankees. Only one time, I'll admit it, I rooted for the Yankees one time. And that was in 2001. It was in the aftermath of 9/11. And you saw what happened to that city. You saw how that city came together. You saw the devastation to all of us, to the entire country. We were all under attack. But in New York, that's where it happened. One of the key places. And I was all about New York then. I rooted for the Yankees. I haven't done it since. But see, that's what sports will do. And in this case, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you are in the same division as the Buffalo Bills. If you're competing, as Cincinnati is, with the Buffalo Bills for a top spot, if you're going to compete with them for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. You are rooting for all things Buffalo. You're rooting for Damar Hamlin. His toy drive has exceeded, I think, $6 million.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the stuff that really strengthens your faith when it comes to people, when it comes to sports driving people in the right direction.
Right. You're exactly right, because we see a lot of foolishness, in our society, in sports, fans' behaviors, in stadiums and things like that. But for everyone to recognize what really mattered, I think seeing the emotion of those teammates, seeing the hugs that were exchanged between Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor, you saw here that, look, this is a really tight-knit community. They are fierce competitors, but they have a lot of respect for each other. And then for the fans to have the same amount of respect. And Buffalo Bills fans are normally, when they play somebody and somebody gets hurt on the opposing team, they normally find their charity and do that. But to see an even bigger community reach out and embrace and try to just support this young man. I mean, I don't know how many people that I've talked to, I've heard from, ran into at the gym or whatever, just asking, what have you heard? I hope this young man comes through. Some guys like, I didn't even know who he was before then, but man, but people just recognize, human life and just how scary that was. And so that's why everybody and all the teams, you saw switch their social media avatars to honor him. That's not a marketing ploy. That's truly them backing him and wanting to show their support for him, for his family, for the Bills. And so, yes, we do have hope. Our society, we are crazy, but we do have a little bit of heart still left.
Yeah, on the flip side, one of our producers in Boston showed me a clip last night. We were talking about how fans can go, fans can have their perspective a little warped. There was and you may have heard about this story a few years ago. This led to news in Philadelphia. My Philadelphians out there, you remember this one. A guy was arrested, and they said, "Hey, do you have anything to say?" He robbed a store, took like $1,000 worth of merchandise. He's caught on camera. Would have taken more, but somebody caught him before he could do more damage. So they match up the footage and they track down the guy, and he's handcuffed and he's being taken away. Do you have anything to say? He says, "Go Eagles." That's it. Go Eagles. That's all he had to say. So the Eagles, hey, look, we got a diverse fan base. We got fans who are doing right by society, helping people, and we have fans who might try to take something from you if you don't lock your doors. So, hey, we're for everybody. We're an inclusive organization. It was great. Let me ask you this: we're getting back to football, though. We are going to get back to football. It looks like it on Sunday. It looks like the Bills are going to play their game against the Patriots. Looks like the Bengals are going to play their game against the Ravens. There may not be any scheduling changes for Sunday, the final week of the regular season, but Bills-Bengals is still in the balance. What's the right way to handle that, Mike? Because you still have two teams who are up there, as I said, fighting for that number one spot. You got Kansas City, you got Buffalo, you got Cincinnati, all with strong cases to make for the top spot in the AFC. And then the games would normally determine it, but this game is not going to be played. What's the best way to handle it?
Yeah, it is very tricky, and there sounds like it's headed toward not resuming that game, but there is no official decision yet. I just to check with somebody who said no, we're still mulling over a lot of different scenarios there. They could move it to maybe the Thursday night, but then what does that do for your playoff game? Does that mean you push your Sunday night game back to the Tuesday, but then that cuts you short for the next game after that? I mean, I think that you just have to first see what happens on Sunday. If, say, Buffalo loses, then, Kansas City's got the number one seed and there's no question. And then you can just roll, hey, do it as a no contest and here's your seeding like that. If Buffalo wins, Kansas City wins, all this stuff, then it is more complicated. But, again, there's a lot of different things they can do. The right thing, I really go back and forth in my mind because, home field advantage is so important. Say that Buffalo get that home field advantage and they have to go to Kansas City. Now, they've proven during the regular season they can win at Kansas City, but still, playoffs are a little bit different. And say they lose, and then it's like, were they penalized because of this type of thing here? I feel like the league has got to try to, give the flexibility that they can. They could move that bye week that's there, eliminate the bye week for the Super Bowl and make sure you get it in. But then everybody's, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. I've been talking to a lot of people, and everybody I talk to is still kind of up in the air on what they think the right thing is. And there's a lot of going back and forth, a lot of different scenarios. But, again, you don't want to see somebody penalized because of something like this.
Right, exactly.
That's the thing. That's the main thing. But the way it shakes out, if you go Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, maybe everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, and what I don't want to see, Mike? I've heard this. I've heard the whole neutral field thing. Like, Kansas City's the 1 and they're co-number ones. And if it comes to a point where they have to meet in the AFC Championship game, you play in a neutral field, I don't like that.
Right.
I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. As you said, home field advantage does matter. I don't want to see a conference championship game played at a neutral site.
No.
One. Two, the local economy.
Yes.
Like, don't penalize the local economy. So if you take it out, if it's going to be Kansas City, you take it out of Kansas City. There are lots of businesses, small businesses, and people around the stadium who are benefiting from that big event, and hotels, and all these restaurants from a conference championship game. It's a big deal. The league does a great job with this. Same thing in Buffalo. If Buffalo earns the number one seed, you take that out of it and you go to a neutral site, it just takes away some of the economy. The pageantry, and the pageantry does matter to me. Does that make me a bad person for saying that? But no. I feel that way.
No, but you're totally right. And okay, say you've got, Jim Smith here, who's got tickets, he's going to take his family, but then adding the burden of flying somewhere else too, you're killing a portion of the fan base, I think the whole fan experience, that adds to the atmosphere of the game too. So I'm not a fan of that going neutral either. I figured out some way, keep it as close to normal as you possibly can. Because economy, yes, but also the fans, that they would suffer because of this. And I just think that's a bad idea.
I saw this. I want to get your take on this before we get out of here. Bobby Wagner I know they had some Hall of Fame announcements yesterday. Jim Trotter was a big part of that. What'd you call him? Lord Trotter? Is that what you call him?
Lord Trotter. Yes, sir. Lord
Trotter. I know Lord Trotter was a part of the Hall of Fame announcements. They had them yesterday cutting that field down. And one day, Bobby Wagner will be on that list. And for my money, he's on their first ballot. Great player. So Wagner was amazing with the Seattle Seahawks for many years. He was a captain. He's the last remaining member of the Legion of Boom. He had a lot of things going for him. Seattle moves on from him. And it's with Bobby Wagner, who's now with the Rams. They played the Seahawks on Sunday in the final game. This is what Bobby Wagner had to say about his time in Seattle.
It's a lot of emotions, man, to be honest. But like I said, last time I played him, I'm a master of my emotions. And, but it's going into a stadium I've been thousands of times, like played hundreds of times. And, to be in a position to spoil their playoff hopes is always a good position, something worth playing for. And, it'd be fun to go back there, be back in front of those fans that have spent so much time. And it should be a fun game.
Now, more than that. Now, okay, that's a fine quote. But I want that to launch something else. And I was just thinking about this. When we talk about how much fan bases connect with their players,
right?
I think Bobby Wagner is a great example of why players sometimes say, okay, spare me the sentimentality.
Right.
Spare me the platitudes. Hey, I want a guaranteed contract. I'm holding out until I get what I want. Because think about this, Mike. Bobby Wagner played at an all-pro level for the Seattle Seahawks. He established their brand. He was like one of their leaders on defense. Did everything he was supposed to do on the field, off the field. And this organization didn't have the good sense to sit him down before they released him, to say, this is why we're doing what we're doing. We appreciate you. We love you. This is a business move, but you deserve more than finding out on Twitter. So
the loyalty does not go both ways.
Right. So look, when players hold out, when players have a little bit of an edge to them, when players seem to be a little bitter, and fans go, well, what's the big deal? You got a good life. No, come on. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. At least show me the common courtesy. At least show me some decency and handle this the right way.
No, I agree with you 100%, because again, these guys, as we just saw on Monday night, are putting their lives, their bodies on the line for these organizations. They are putting so many hours and sacrifices in. And then to not be treated with the same type of respect and commitment that they give those organizations, yeah, you can't blame those guys for not
Right.
being as loyal. I mean, because they know that, look, eventually they're going to just kick me to the side and not do for me what I did for them. So I don't fault them at all for holding out, for
Right.
trying to get as much as they possibly can, because they know that that window of opportunity is very small. And the show is going to go on well beyond their careers. And so they've got to get what they can and make sure they are taken care of, their families are taken care of, because they may respect and love that organization, but that organization's love runs out rather quickly.
I think a challenge. Okay, so here's last thing I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you some personal stuff, Mike. Get ready. I'm gonna tell you some personal stuff. For a change, I'm not gonna put your personal business out there.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put my personal business out there. So New Year's resolutions, but I don't necessarily have resolutions. I have areas.
Goals, right?
I have concepts. And so when you fail, okay, it's not over. It's a process. You just restart it. So one of the things I want to do the new year is take more chances. That was one of the things.
Okay.
Take more chances. Take more chances. Okay. Don't play it safe. Take some risk. I don't know what that means. There'll be appropriate risk. There will be appropriate chances. I'll take some chances. But the other thing is, and I think this is for all of us as a sports viewing body, as sports lovers, try to see just a little bit more, move 5% forward. Try to see the humanity in the athletes that we watch.
Yes.
Try just what can you do to see the humanity in these athletes? I'm not saying you should, don't get excited about your games and don't boo people, don't yell at them. No, but understand that that's all a sport. What you're doing is a sport as well. But when all that stuff is aside, you are dealing with a human being. So I think Bobby Wagner and unfortunately Damar Hamlin, that's a reminder for all of us. Underneath that helmet, behind that face mask, a human being with a family, with people who love them, people who support them. They're not just a number out there in a vacuum.
Right. No, agree with you 100%. Could not have said that better. That's what I always, when I do stories, I try to show that humanity side, because people, they don't get it. Because they don't talk to these guys. They don't see what they go through. But we're starting.
We're getting it in 23.
Let's hope and pray that we don't forget.
That's right. Mike Jones, we won't forget you. Don't forget us.
Thank you.
You know the number. You know the address. You know the address here. Just pop on by. That's what we tell everybody. Just swing on through anytime you want to. Always great talking with you, brother. We'll catch up with you soon.
Hey, good talking to you. See you soon.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.